Have you ever loved someone enough to let yourself be played? I might as well have carried around a sign that said, "Pick me, pick me." When a man loves a woman, he can't think of anything else. He'd trade the whole world for what he's found. It all started my junior year of college. It was the first day of classes, and my first class was managerial economics. I had just taken my seat when she walked in. I don't know if it was lust or love at first sight, but the girl captured my attention and held it for the next 3 years. I had never seen her before, and later learned that she was Mildred Camelot. Please call me Millie. She had transferred from Eastern Michigan University that fall. I tried a dozen times to talk her into going out with me, but she always turned me down. Then I tried a half dozen more times when I returned to classes in January. Finally, just before spring break, she agreed. When I came to pick her up, her mother looked at me in confusion. "You had a date with her tonight? I don't understand. She left for Panama City this morning to spend spring break with friends." I was furious, but convinced myself that in her excitement about spring break in Florida, she had forgotten about our date. When I approached her on the first day of class after vacation, she was very apologetic. She said the opportunity to go came up at the last minute, and she didn't have a phone number where she could contact me to let me know. I bought it. Why wouldn't I? I was so enamored with her that I would have agreed to anything she said. She agreed to a date that Saturday. We had a great time, and her kiss when I drove her home almost made my knees go weak. I asked her out again, and she said yes. We dated non-stop for the next 2 months. Then, one day at a party, she disappeared. I looked for her everywhere, and after an hour, I gave up and went home. I called her on Saturday, and her brother said she wasn't home. I didn't call again. If she wasn't upset enough to call me and ask why I left her at the party, then I really didn't matter to her as much as I had hoped. On Monday, I was in the school cafeteria when I saw her walk in, go through the line, and look around. When she saw me, she made her way to my table and sat down. "Excuse me," she said. I didn't say anything back. She continued, "I had to find you and tell you what happened. John Felter had bought a new Mustang convertible and wanted to show it to me. He asked if I wanted to take it for a ride, and when we got back to the party, you were already gone. Everyone told me you were looking all over for me, and I figured you'd be too mad at me to want to talk. So I waited until today to apologize, hoping you wouldn't be mad anymore, or at least not as mad." "It's okay," I replied. "I was just worried about you, especially when I didn't hear from you." We made a date for that night and pretty much stayed together until summer vacation came around. Our kisses got hotter and hotter as time went on. I was close to my goal, but I just couldn't get there. Millie told me she had promised her mother she'd walk down the aisle as a virgin. I, of course, accepted her refusal. Some friends told me that Felter had bragged about sleeping with Millie on the hood of his Mustang. They said he laughed about breaking us up at a party at Flanagan's and then sleeping with her. I'd known Felter for years. We'd fought twice in high school, and both times I'd kicked his ass. Besides, he accused me of stealing Pauline French from him. I didn't actually do that. She dumped him because she said he was a lying. I didn't get involved with her until a month after they broke up. I didn't believe a word that said. Besides, I knew my Millie. She would never date someone like Felter, and she had made a promise to her mother. I knew she would die before breaking that promise. Still, I was upset because I hadn't had sex since 2 weeks before junior year started. I could have gotten laid if I wanted to. The 3 girls I had worked out with in high school and the 2 I dated my freshman and sophomore years were still classmates. One of them even asked me to help her end her cunt. The drought was tough, but if Millie could hang on until she said yes, I could stay faithful to her, true to her. Oh yeah, I had already made up my mind. Millie was mine. She belonged to me, heart and soul, and was going to be my bride. If she had any flaws, I couldn't see them. Over summer vacation, things started to go downhill. We both worked as interns for different employers. Our work schedules and weekends didn't line up, so it was hard for us to see each other. I heard from friends that she was seeing other guys, but I could understand that. Why should she sit at home and watch dumb TV shows just because our schedules didn't allow us to date? We still went out often enough to maintain a close relationship. We moved into our senior year as an established couple, but things were a little awkward. I continued working part-time at the company I had interned with over the summer, and Millie understood. She knew it would lead to a good career after graduation, allowing us to start our marriage on solid ground. She promised we'd catch up on weekends. Rumors started circulating about Millie having fun and making out with guys on the nights I worked. But I knew it was all nonsense because I knew my Millie. She didn't do that. Dating, sure, but making out with other guys? Ridiculous. When my best friend Brad, who had been my buddy since 3rd grade, asked if I was serious about Millie, I told him, "So serious that I'm going to ask her to marry me." "Why do you ask?" "Just curious," Brad replied. "Oh no, not just curious. I've known you forever, Brad, and I know when something's bothering you." He sighed. "Okay then, I've seen you interact with her, heard you talk about her. I know you consider her your girlfriend. But I don't want you to get hurt, man. That girl spends a lot of time running around and making out with other guys." "Stop it, Brad. My Millie wouldn't do that to me," I snapped. "I'm sorry to make a big deal out of it, but I've seen it with my own eyes. Twice. The first time was at that party Bob Flanagan threw a while back. I was in the car making out with Pauline French, and I saw her and John Felter get out of his Mustang. They stopped in front of the car, talked for a while, and then she leaned back on the hood, and Felter, you know. And just last week, I saw her in the back seat of Stan North's Pontiac, her feet up on the paneling." "Shut your lying mouth," I growled. "Millie isn't like that. I don't know what your problem is with her, but from now on, stay the hell away from me." The door closed behind us as she undressed. She spoke, "Hurry up, baby. Hurry up before I change my mind." I sure as hell didn't want that, so I started dumping my clothes on the floor. I didn't waste time on foreplay. I just got down to business. As we were leaving the motel, Millie said, "We need to do this a lot more often," and so we did. After graduation, I started working full-time for the company I worked part-time for while I was in school. Millie hadn't found a job yet, but it didn't matter. A month or so after graduation, we were relaxing in bed in my apartment after a very pleasant fiddling session when she said, "Honey, we have a problem." "What is it, love?" I asked. "I'm pregnant. What am I going to do?" "That's a silly question. We're getting married sooner than we planned." "What am I going to tell Mom? She'll be mad that I didn't keep my promise. She might not even pay for the wedding." "No problem. We'll go to Vegas, get married as Elvis, and then come home and tell her she has to get ready to meet her grandson. She'll be a little mad at you, but then she'll calm down and start making plans to spoil her first grandchild." And so it happened. Her mother didn't take it well, but then, as I predicted, she started making plans for the future child. In the 6th month, she began urging Millie to have an ultrasound to see if she was having a grandson or granddaughter. Millie kept refusing because we wanted it to be a surprise. We were happy beyond belief, and it showed. Anyone who looked at us could tell. Millie was at the beginning of her 8th month. It was a Saturday night, and we were at the Alhambra Lounge. There were a few people there that we knew. We pushed 3 tables together and had a great time drinking, dancing, and talking to old friends. About 2 hours into the evening, I went to the restroom. The room was quite large with 4 stalls and 3 urinals. I was sitting in the last stall, the farthest from the urinals, and was just wiping myself off when the door opened. I heard, "Sure looks sexy as hell, even if she is pregnant. Sleeping with her lately? Long lunch at the Marriott on Tuesday. How about you?" I recognized the voices. They were Steve Miller and Norm Capuccio. "Millie wants nothing to do with me since I laughed at her when she told me she was pregnant and I was her father," one of them said. "How the hell would she know?" Steve replied, "Christ, there's never less than 6 guys at all her threesomes. I wonder who the hell could be the father." At that moment, the door opened again, and I heard Eddie Cow say, "Hey dudes, do any of you guys have anything we can slip in Bob's drink to make him pass out? Then we can have a little fun with Millie. We haven't slept with her in a couple of weeks." "I've got something," Capuccio said, "but it's pretty fast acting. We're gonna have to get him out of here." "Not a problem, man," Eddie said. "People help drunks out of here all the time." 3 urinals flushed, and I heard, Better warn Millie ahead of time so she doesn't panic when Bob goes down." "I will," one of them said, and the restroom door closed behind them. They must have seen me come in and decided to follow me and pull the chain. Millie was only drinking Coca-Cola because of her pregnancy, and I was drinking vodka tonic. We had a good time, and I didn't even get mad when Millie danced with Norm, Steve, and Eddie. When I woke up, my head hurt like hell. I was a little disoriented until I realized I was lying in the back seat of my car. Staggering, I walked into the house and found Millie asleep in bed. I went down to the kitchen and put the coffee on. I was sitting at the kitchen table sipping my coffee when Millie came in, poured herself a cup, and sat down across from me. "How's your head?" she asked. "A little sore." "I don't doubt it, judging by the way you've been pounding them. Everyone was buying you drinks in honor of you becoming a dad, and you seemed to think it was your duty to drink everything." "Why was I in the back of the car?" I asked. "I had help carrying you to the car, but I couldn't do it alone at home." "Well, no more celebrations for me, at least for a while." The next 3 weeks went smoothly, and then Millie's water broke, and I rushed her to the hospital. I held her hand and encouraged her, and 6 hours later, she gave birth to a baby girl. If she's playing me for a fool, I'll be the last to know. Seeing the infant reminded me of that night in the Alhambra restroom when I overheard Steve, Norm, and Eddie. Eddie had an Asian mother and a white father, and the baby apparently had one mixed-race parent.